What's up, guys? This is Andy here. BC Builds. Just got home from a long day. Anyway, someone requested I make a video on shaders slash color packers, and kind of like I did the liners. I have everything set up for different purposes, and given I can use any machine for just about anything, but it just makes it easier when you got a machine set for a certain purpose. So you don't really have to adjust your hand speed and technique all that much. Anyways, the bottom row, the bottom three are pretty much gray wash shaders. They can be used for color, but they're more suited for black and gray. And the top three are color packers, color machines, better suited for color. Like I said, you can adjust your hand speed and your technique and use, anything, to do gray wash or color, but I have them set up. I use them for specific things. First, I'll start at the top. Top left. You guys have seen this machine. I don't use this too much. I do and I don't. This is a really hard-hitting color packer. This is an Infinite Irons, and one of the original models, an older one. You can see it's marked a number 31, right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. Nice. It's a three-piece welded iron frame, but the geometry is 100% correct on it. It doesn't even need shims. There is no shims, period. Given the front coil is worn down quite a bit. It's an older machine. It's been used. It's got thousands and thousands of hours on it. Anyways, it's got big 10-wrap coils, big cast iron cores, a gigantically fat armature bar, which is typical of a color packer, but this armature bar is even thicker. This is the heaviest one I own. And then it's got 16 gauge Ringmaster front and back springs. And then it's got the brass binding post, solid brass screw. Nothing special. I'm not going to get too much into that. This, because it's got a heavy armature bar and light springs on the back, it's going to cycle a little slower, but it's going to hit a lot harder. With color packers, because they have less tension in the back to pull them up, they're quicker to pull down and they're slower to go back up because they're heavy and they have less tension. So you're going to have a lower duty cycle, and the needle's going to spend more time in this down position in the skin, which is going to help saturate that ink in there. Because it's got gigantically huge coils, 10 wraps, true 10 wraps, and a huge armature bar, this thing hits like a monster. Runs about 100 cycles per second. This I could pretty much use with anything, but I really use this for bigger mags, like 15 and up, just because it's so powerful. This is what I use to color in big areas or really tough skin, because this will push through anything. This will push anywhere from 15 up to like a 35 or 43 mag without a problem. I use this for, bigger needles or tougher skin types. This will pack through just about anything. This here is first generation, next generation tattoo machine. This is an Eclipse. It's got big 10-rack coils on it, just like the other one. A big fat armature bar, big T-top coils, 100 UF capacitor, which in turn it's 100 UF, so it makes it more powerful, but it slows it down. It makes the cycle really slow. But because of that, I compensated. It's got stiffer springs. This has got a 20 gauge front spring and a 22 back. Just because of this capacitor makes it cycle a little slow, I wanted to speed it up. So now the Infinite runs about 100 cycles per second. This runs a little quicker. This is about 110 cycles per second. It's got a little smaller of an armature bar, and it's got a stiffer back spring. So it's pretty much evened in the up and down movement. One's not too much faster than the other. So this won't saturate the color as well as this. It won't hit it in, quite as hard. It still hits pretty hard, but this cycles a little faster. I use this for normal skin types, but I use this for color blending because it'll pack that color in there without a problem, but it's fast enough to get smooth gradients. Just a well-rounded color packer. This is, I believe, a Chinese frame. I hand wound these coils. Just an odd shape armature bar that is iron. It's got the bubble to make it a little heavier. This also has 16 gauge front and rear. Big gap on all three of them. This is just like the first one. It'll be faster to come down than to go back up, so it'll spend more time in the skin. This is what I pack color with, with like a 9 mag, smaller needles. I use this, it could push bigger needles, it could push up to a 15 with no problem. But this is just a little too powerful for small needles, so I have this set up for smaller needle groupings, from like 5 to 11s. It'll push just fine. It's got smaller 8-wrap coils, iron 3/8 cores. They're not T-tops. A decently heavy armature bar. It's not as heavy as the other two, so this will cycle quick. Decently quick, but it also has the same faster down motion to sink that ink in the skin. More like a jackhammer. It's not as zippy. Extended contact screw. Gets just a little bit of bend. I don't want too much bend. If you have too much bend in that top spring, you get a higher duty cycle. And that means there's more tension on the back, and it's not going down as hard as it should. It should cycle down faster than it goes back up, so it'll spend more time down, a lower duty cycle. This is all around. This is really good for color shading and just straight color packing. I also use this when I'm doing tribal work. Black's easier to put in than colors. It just seems to go in the skin easier, so I don't need a massive color packer to do so. But this is good for like solid black and some black shading. I wouldn't really use it for gray wash, but it's this is really good. This will pack color all day long, and it's really good with color blending and color shading. Like I said, hand wrap coils, a heavier armature bar, 16 gauge springs, so it hits down harder than it comes back up. That's a steel frame. Now we're getting into the gray wash machines. This is a ITS J frame. It's a 2-piece iron machine. This was welded onto the back. The rest of it is all cast iron. This has got big 10-wrap coils, 1 1/4. This has got about even spring tension, so the up and down is pretty even. It's got like around a 55 duty cycle. These up here run around around 50. This one about 55. This is a good all-around black and gray shader, and you can shade color with it. This has got a little heavier of an armature bar for a gray wash shader. This allows me to pack those deeper tones in if I have like solid black areas or I got to push a little bigger for a needle. This doesn't run as fast. This is only about 100 cycles per second, but it's got a bigger fat armature bar on it and a 47 UF capacitor, so I'm able to sink solid black with this without a problem. In big areas, but it also is soft enough where I could, do nice light tones with it. Not super light. I did use this as a color packer. All I have to do is, pretty much change the position of the contact screw, and this will pack color just great. But this is a little slower. This is a little harder hitting. This is a good gray wash shader for tough skin types, or if you're doing solid black areas. If you're doing solid black, you want it to hit a little harder to saturate it more. And if you got someone who's got really tough skin like my brother, my normal gray wash shaders, which are pretty light, won't pierce his skin, so this is a little harder hitting. This is probably my favorite gray wash shader. This is used for normal skin types and lighter skin types. It doesn't have too much power, so people like my brother that have leathery thick skin, it's going to have a hard time piercing and getting those grades in. But this runs a little faster. This is about 115 cycles per second. It's a little quicker on the rebound on the up cycle, more towards the liner, and a little slower on the bottom. It makes it a little zippy. Which is good because you don't want it to hit too hard on the downswing. Because if you're using something that hits incredibly hard on the downswing, if you're packing in those really light grays, something that hits really hard, it's just going to saturate the shit out of those light grays and make them heal darker. It's going to pack so much of it in there, it's going to come out dark. This has got 18 front and rear springs. It's got a shorter front spring than this one, which makes it a little shorter of a stroke, and it makes it cycle a little faster and hit a little lighter. And it's got a decent weight armature bar on it. It's not as light as most of my liner bars, but it's shorter, so it is lighter. It'll cycle faster. This is a 2-piece frame, a custom 2 vise on the bottom, and this I think was a Chinese machine that I cut and chopped and made it useful. I hand wrapped these coils. These are 10 wrap 24 gauge Essex wire, which have plenty of power. But this has a 33 UF capacitor, so it doesn't hit too hard and it makes it run a little faster. This is for those really soft gradients, and it runs fast enough where you can get those smooth blends. And then there's this, which is just a straight cutback shader. It's got 8 wrap coils. This was intended to be a liner, and then I switched the springs out to 18, and this makes a really good cutback liner. This doesn't have a lot of power. This is really good for, I couldn't pack solid colors with this. I couldn't do solid black, but this is really good for really smooth gradients. It runs super fast, so it's going to make sure you get a consistent blend. No, this has a 22 UF capacitor, which makes it a lot less powerful but a lot faster. This runs at about 125 cycles per second, but the way it's set up with the springs, it doesn't hit too hard like a liner. It's a short gap. This is really good for those long, smooth, really light fades, because when you're putting in those light inks, it's hard to see. This moves fast enough to know that you got a consistent coverage of the skin, but it doesn't hit too hard where it's going to oversaturate it. It's also got the lightened armature bar, and it's got no O-ring, because if I put an O-ring in there, it would make this spring too stiff, and it would pretty much make it a liner. So anyways, I hope that helped you guys. It's nice to have a variety of machines, at least in the shading category. This is big mags or tough skin. This can push big mags, but it's a little faster, so it'll give you smoother color blends, and it's a little softer, so it won't oversaturate those blends. This is a good in-between between both of those. This will pack solid color all day long, push up to a 15, no problem. But you can also do good color shading with it, in fades. This is a good gray wash shader for tougher skin or the darker tones or bigger mags. This will put in really smooth grays. If you're using like a 15 mag, I would use this. This I usually use like a 9. It's more of a detail, and this is my smaller one. This is what I use for, the purple one on the right is what I use for small details. I usually use a 7 or a 5 mag. And then this is the all-around gray wash shader. It can pack solid dark, but it's if you want it to, and it's still light enough where it'll do those really light grays perfectly. And I just brought these machines out. These are the ones I picked just to show a variety of brands. And 2 of them are, this is hand-built and tuned. This is, a Unimax machine, but, I retuned it. So you can make your own machines. You don't have to buy a $500 machine, but it just goes to show. You can have extremely expensive professional machines like these 2 here, and this one was decently expensive. It was like $150. Or you could use, this is around $100 or so, but you could also make your own machines and do the same thing. My favorite gray wash shader is one that I cut out of a Chinese frame and pretty much tuned myself. But like I said, it's nice to have a variety of machines. Instead of having one gray wash machine for all gray washes, and struggling to get in those really dark blacks or having to, really adjust your hand speed to do those really fine grays, it's nice to have a nice setup of machines. Because if I put a little 5 mag in this machine, it's just going to overpack those light grays and they're going to come out too dark. If I put a 15 in this, there's no way it's going to even pierce the skin. So like I said, variety of machines for specific tasks, but I do tune them all in where they could do everything, if you really adjust it. But, I always set up multiple machines during my tattoo just to make my life a little easier, and it's nice to have a variety. Anyways, that's it, guys. I'm going to post this and get back to what I was doing.